They won't even understand why they can't stop thinking about you, but they will. Their mind will circle back to you in silence, their emotions quietly shaped by your absence. Their choices slowly bent in your direction. Machiavelli never used the word obsession, but that's exactly what he described. He wrote that men are driven by two forces, love and fear. But if you look deeper, there's something even more powerful than both: obsession. Obsession isn't just about attraction, it's about control. When someone becomes obsessed with you, it's no longer about liking you. It's about reorienting their entire world around you. They wake up thinking about you. They notice your smallest reactions. They change how they speak, dress, and even think, all because of you. And here's the secret. This isn't random. You can create it. You can engineer it. Machiavelli didn't make people love him. He made them need him. And he did it by mastering one simple principle. Obsession doesn't come from what you give. It comes from what you withhold. If you want someone to be obsessed with you, don't drown them in attention. Don't be endlessly available. That doesn't create desire. That creates comfort. And comfort is the enemy of curiosity. Instead, do what Machiavelli would do. Starve them of certainty. Obsession begins the moment someone can't predict you, when they can't figure out whether you admire them or merely tolerate them. When they replay that last moment, unsure whether your glance was passion or calculation. That uncertainty keeps them stuck in a loop, because the human brain hates unanswered questions. It craves resolution, and when it can't find it, it keeps searching. You become that unanswered question, that puzzle they can't solve. You can build this feeling through subtle tension. Let silence hang just a second longer than it should. Respond to their message a little too late. Pull back the instant they lean in. Machiavelli never gave people the full picture of his thoughts, his loyalties, or his emotions. He always left room for doubt, because he knew that the moment someone feels secure, the chase dies. Certainty ends desire. Uncertainty keeps it burning. Once you've sparked that initial interest through absence and unpredictability, it's time for what Machiavelli called strategic reflection, a kind of controlled mirroring. You reflect fragments of what they desire most, but never the whole thing, just enough to make them think, this person really gets me. But never enough to make them feel like they've fully figured you out. If they crave ambition, reveal your ruthless drive once, then go silent about it. If they crave vulnerability, show it for a second, then hide it behind humor or indifference. If they crave intensity, give them a flash of it, then vanish into calm composure. Because the mind doesn't obsess over what it fully understands. It obsesses over what it almost understands. Now that you've caught their attention, it's time to train their brain literally. This next step is called intermittent reinforcement. It's the same psychological loop that keeps gamblers at a slot machine. You give warmth, then coldness. Attention, then distance. Praise, then criticism. Never in a predictable rhythm. This unpredictability hijacks the brain's dopamine system. They start checking their phone constantly, rereading your messages, looking for patterns that don't exist. They're chasing the next hit of validation from you because you've made your attention the reward. You're not giving love. You're offering hope. And hope, when it's uncertain, is more addictive than love will ever be. Machiavelli understood that the deepest obsessions don't come from pleasure. They come from pain. Not the pain you cause, but the pain that already lives inside people. The quiet wounds they carry: rejection, abandonment, insecurity. You don't create that pain. You simply become the one who understands it. You listen without fixing. You see what they hide from everyone else. You make them feel recognized, maybe for the first time. And in that moment, they start to associate you with healing. You're not just a person anymore. You're a cure. Once they believe that, they won't walk away. They can't. If you ever ask for obsession or loyalty or attention, you destroy it. True obsession can't be requested. It has to be provoked. So, let your absence speak louder than your presence. Let your indifference sharpen their desire. Let your unpredictability drive their imagination wild. Machiavelli never begged for loyalty. He made himself so fascinating, so unreadable, that people gave it to him willingly. You don't tell people to obsess. You become the obsession. Because once they start wondering who you really are and you never quite let them find out, their mind does the rest of the work for you. The moment they understand you, the chase ends. So never let them fully understand you. Live more in their imagination than in their reality. Never present one solid, unchanging version of yourself. Predictability kills obsession. Obsession thrives in contradiction, in the tension between mystery and intimacy, warmth and coldness, strength and vulnerability. One day you're serious and focused, the next, lighthearted and distant. One moment you praise them, the next, you tease them. This keeps them asking, which version is real? They start to analyze everything, every message, every tone. They become addicted to decoding you. You don't owe them consistency. You owe them a maze. And if you never hand them a map, they'll wander it forever. Want to control someone without ever touching them? Control when you appear. Machiavelli knew timing is everything. It's not just about what you say. It's about when you show up and when you disappear. End conversations while the energy is high. Leave them mid-thought, mid-emotion. Send a message that makes them feel seen, then vanish for hours. That space, that silence, creates a void so sharp it echoes. Their mind starts replaying, questioning, wondering. You've entered their mental real estate rent-free. Now let's talk about mirroring, not the fake, surface-level kind where you copy gestures or words. Real mirroring is psychological. It's when you reflect someone's inner world back to them, but slightly distorted. You say what they've always felt, but never knew how to express. You notice things they thought no one saw. You make them feel known, but just slightly misunderstood. That subtle distortion keeps them hooked. They'll keep talking to you, trying to correct the version of themselves you reflect, but you're never completely wrong. You're just almost right. And that almost drives them crazy. They want to fix the image, but they never can, because you never let them. Nothing common is desired. Nothing easy is respected. So if you want obsession, make yourself rare. Your time not easily given. Your thoughts never freely shared. Your approval earned, never assumed. Your attention unpredictable. Every interaction must feel like a privilege. Because obsession doesn't come from access. It comes from earned proximity. They won't fall in love with you. They'll fall in love with the idea of being chosen by you. And once they feel chosen, they'll do anything to never be unchosen. You don't build obsession by smothering someone with affection. You build it through removal. Just as they start to feel close, you withdraw. Just as they think they've figured you out, you disappear. Just as they begin to relax, you quietly shake the foundation. But remember, this withdrawal should never feel cruel. Cruelty creates hate. You want confusion, the kind of emotional fog that makes them question everything. They shouldn't resent you. They should miss you. They should replay every word, every glance, wondering if they misread it all. This is where obsession deepens. because it's no longer about you. It's about them, about how they feel about themselves in your absence. Every powerful figure in history had a signature, something small that left a mark on people's minds. A scent, a gesture, a phrase, something that lingered. You need one too, your anchor. A word only you use. A tone you reserve for moments of seriousness. A gesture that feels unintentional but becomes unforgettable. These small sensory anchors take root in the subconscious. Soon, they'll start hearing your voice in silence, seeing your image in passing faces. You won't just exist as a memory. You'll become a presence, a haunting one. Because true obsession isn't when someone wants you. It's when they can't escape the idea of you. To reach that level, they must begin to see themselves in you, and you in them. You merge into their self-image. You're no longer just a person. You become part of who they believe they are. That's what Machiavelli mastered. He didn't just influence rulers, he inhabited them. His thoughts became their thoughts. His presence lingered in their decisions long after he left the room. Here's the truth. People don't obsess over others. They obsess over the version of themselves they become when they're with you. So, your job is simple. Make them feel more powerful, more seen, more alive. Show them a version of themselves that only exists around you. A self that feels elevated, magnetic, unstoppable. And every time they're away from you, they'll feel the loss, the emptiness, the dullness of being ordinary again. That's not just attraction, that's psychological dependency. And once they're there, you anchor it with identity. Give them a subtle title in your world, something that makes them feel chosen. You're the only one who actually gets me. I don't trust easily, but with you, it's different. Those lines aren't manipulation, they're design. You're defining their role in your story. Now, walking away from you wouldn't just mean losing a person. It would mean losing a piece of who they are. And that's the core of obsession, when someone needs you to preserve their own identity. But Machiavelli warned, men must either be caressed or annihilated. In emotional terms, that means if you want total loyalty, you can't half play the game. You either create deep connection or total distance. Anything in between makes you forgettable. To truly own someone's emotional loyalty, you must hold their secrets, but not by force. You don't demand confession, you invite it. You listen so silently, so non-judgmentally, that they choose to reveal what they hide from everyone else. When they tell you their trauma, their shame, their failures, don't react. Don't pity, just witness. That silence, that calm acceptance, makes them feel safer with you than with anyone else. And safety is more powerful than attraction. It creates a vault. You become the one place their deepest truths can live. And once you hold someone's secrets, you hold their loyalty. Because now, they fear those secrets dying in silence, or worse, being forgotten. That fear transforms into attachment. And attachment, when refined carefully, becomes obsession. Now we move to a more advanced layer: memory manipulation. You're not just influencing who you are to them today, you're reshaping who you were to them yesterday. Here's how. When you recall past moments, rewrite them in ways that make your present seem more profound. Say things like, "Remember the look you gave me that night? Something changed in that moment." Or, "When we walked by that place, I could tell something in you was shifting." Even if it didn't happen that way, their brain starts to believe it did. Because memory isn't fact. It's emotion wrapped in story. And the brain rewires itself based on emotional suggestion. Repeat it enough with the right tone, and you start to live rent-free in their past as well as their present. You're no longer a person, you're a plot twist. the one event in their timeline that changed everything. And that's why you must never give closure, because stories that never end are the ones that haunt the longest. Talk about things you'll do together trips, plans, dreams, but never finalize them. Paint vivid futures that stay suspended in midair. Because when a story remains unfinished, the mind keeps returning to it, trying to complete it. That's what Machiavelli would have called a political promise. A vision that inspires, but never guarantees. It keeps the masses loyal, and the individual devoted. Now, once you've built this emotional web, you need one final ingredient: fear. Not the loud kind, not threats or anger. A soft, quiet fear. A fear of losing you. When that fear becomes greater than their comfort in having you, obsession takes root. Machiavelli never needed to demand loyalty. He simply made people terrified of being outside his circle. That's what you do here. You make someone fear the loss of your presence more than they value its certainty. Start small. After an intense conversation, you go silent. After a moment of deep connection, you create distance, not enough to seem cold, just enough to trigger panic. They start wondering, did I say something wrong? Did I disappoint them? Are they losing interest? And here's the twist. You're not making them question you. You're making them question themselves. That's how you shift the balance of control. They become the unstable one, constantly analyzing their own behavior, trying to win back your warmth. Now, they're not just chasing you, they're chasing relief. Because humans don't fear losing what they don't value. They fear losing what feels sacred. So, give your loyalty in small, sacred doses, like rare wine. A sip here, a toast there, never the whole bottle. Let them feel trusted, special, chosen, but always aware that it could end at any moment. The moment they sense your attention could vanish, their grip tightens. And that's when obsession truly begins to take hold. Because now, they're no longer driven by desire. They're driven by fear. And fear, when disguised as love, becomes devotion. Everyone has an insecurity they're quietly running from. Some hide from rejection. Others fear being unseen. Most fear being forgotten. Your power lies in becoming the one person who makes that insecurity disappear. But only sometimes. When you make them feel powerful, seen, or whole, they'll start to associate that feeling of relief with you. And when you withdraw, when you vanish into silence, that insecurity comes back stronger. Now they don't just miss you, they need you. Because you've become the only source of calm that keeps their fear from swallowing them whole. They aren't addicted to your presence. They're addicted to the version of themselves they can only access when you're near. And that is when obsession turns into dependency. Even the thought of losing you starts to feel unbearable. That's fear disguised as attachment. Most people fear rejection because it leaves them without closure. So, when someone feels like they might lose you, especially for reasons they can't control, they panic. But here's the key. Never threaten to leave. Never make it obvious. You want the fear to bloom naturally, not through force, but through suggestion. Say things like, "I've always admired your strength. I just hope you don't become like everyone else." Or, "People don't lose me because I leave. They lose me because they forget how rare I am." You're not pushing them away. You're planting the idea that they could push you away. You make them terrified of disappointing you, of being the one who ruined something rare. Now they're not chasing your affection. They're guarding it, protecting it. You've turned emotional fear into emotional loyalty. Once someone is emotionally attached, they begin to let you guide their behavior. This is the point where you subtly start shaping their self-image. They begin to crave your moral approval more than your affection. You can test this easily. Go slightly quiet after they do something you disapprove of. Don't argue, don't explain, just distance yourself emotionally. They'll notice immediately. They'll start reanalyzing everything. Did I say something wrong? Did I lose their respect? They'll try to fix it. They'll try to earn you back. And this is how control begins. Not through power, not through threats, but through emotional calibration, by teaching someone that peace only exists when you're pleased. Machiavelli would do nothing in these moments. He knew that silence is louder than explanation, because the moment you explain your silence, you lose its power. You've already made them dependent on your unpredictability. They're hooked on trying to fix what they never broke. By now, they're no longer chasing you. They're chasing the feeling of safety that only you can grant them. And the beauty is, you don't even have to do anything. You simply remain a few steps ahead, close enough to be felt, distant enough to be missed. But obsession still needs fuel. And nothing fuels obsession like a vanishing act. When you remove yourself, your power expands. Because absence is not emptiness, it's amplification. Machiavelli understood this perfectly. The moment you step back, you stop being a person and start becoming an idea. So don't ghost them, don't block them. That's too final. You simply fade. Take longer to reply. Speak less. Let warmth cool down naturally. Never offer an explanation. If they ask, "What's wrong?" you answer calmly, "Nothing's wrong. I've just been in my head." And that's enough. Because now, their mind becomes your playground. They start blaming themselves. Did I overwhelm them? Did I change? Was I never enough? And that's when obsession ignites. Because the moment someone starts questioning their own worth because of you, you've embedded yourself into their identity. During your fade-out, leave behind triggers, little reminders that pull them back into your orbit. It could be a song, a phrase you used often, a location you shared, a small ritual that became yours. Now, every time they encounter it, they think of you. Their mind starts filling in the blanks. Their imagination starts doing your job for you. Because once you exist inside their imagination, you no longer need to reach out. They'll reach toward you. Obsession needs friction. You have to keep the emotional tension alive. So leave subtle traces. Watch their stories, but don't reply. Like their posts, but never message. Send a vague text with no context, then go silent again. These breadcrumbs keep hope alive. They make them think, maybe they still care, maybe I still matter. And hope is the leash that keeps them crawling back. Because by now, you're not just a person they desire, you're a fix. A psychological addiction disguised as affection. They'll chase you not for love, but for relief. You've become the oasis in their emotional desert. And every drop of attention you give them feels like water. After a long silence, reappear, but not as the same person. Come back colder, sharper, more in control, less emotional, less expressive. Let your tone shift, your energy feel different. They'll sense it immediately that something has changed. They'll feel the distance. They'll try to bridge it. They'll do anything to bring back the old version of you, but you never return fully. You let them taste nostalgia, but never satisfaction. Let them feel. We were close, but something's different now. That difference becomes magnetic. It makes your presence rare again. Now they're not chasing you. They're chasing who you used to be, and people never stop chasing ghosts they once felt safe with. No matter what they try, the old messages, the emotional pleas, the memories, nothing works, because you've made yourself unreachable, not by walls, but by evolution. You've become the one that got away by design. Now every time they think of you, it's not about who you are, it's about who they became because of you. And they'll chase that version of themselves endlessly. because you gave them just enough paradise to make the rest of life feel unbearable. Without you, that's the essence of psychological power. You turned emotion into structure. You built dependency from absence. You became both the wound and the cure. And when someone believes you're both, they'll never truly let you go. Now you enter the final stage myth-building. Every legend, every ruler, every figure who ever commanded devotion had one thing in common. They turned themselves into a story. Start shaping your own myth. Speak about your past in ways that sound poetic and ambiguous. Never tell everything just fragments. Let others argue about who you really are. When people can't define you, they'll start to debate you. And when they defend you, you've already won. Because now they're emotionally invested in protecting your image. Machiavelli understood this game perfectly. He never defended his reputation. He let people talk. Some said he was ruthless. Others called him a genius. He didn't correct anyone because contradiction creates mystique. When someone becomes obsessed with you, they'll begin doing the same. They'll speak about you in extremes, mysterious, powerful, unreadable. They'll talk about you to others, trying to explain you, justify you, or warn about you. But in every story, you're the center, and stories last longer than memories. Once that happens, you've transcended the ordinary relationship. You've become an idea. Now it's time to use it. Machiavelli wanted to be obeyed, not adored. And obsession, when sculpted with precision, becomes the purest form of control. Because once someone's identity is tied to you, they no longer want you. They need to prove themselves to you. They seek validation constantly, even when you're silent. So you use this pull strategically. You give validation not for affection, but for alignment. When they echo your beliefs, reward them with warmth. When they defend you, open up slightly. When they stay composed, loyal, or elegant under pressure, acknowledge it with a look, a phrase, a nod. You're not rewarding emotion. You're rewarding behavior. And that's how loyalty becomes reflex. Soon, they'll start to learn an unspoken law. The more I align with their standards, the more I feel whole. That's behavioral loyalty, a form of control far stronger than love. Then take it one step further. Raise the bar silently. Stop explaining what you expect. Just embody it. Be calm under tension. Show restraint. Speak rarely, but with purpose. Your silence will teach them faster than your words ever could. They'll begin self-correcting. They'll start scanning your reactions for approval. They'll become more composed, more disciplined, more elegant. Not because you ask them to, but because they don't want to disappoint you. This is how invisible laws are born. Not through rules or punishment, but through selective warmth. When they act in accordance with your standards, they feel connection. When they don't, they feel distance. You never have to say a word. That's power. Subtle, silent, absolute. Because surface-level obsession fades. But obsession tied to ideology, to belief, lasts forever. So, plant your ideology. What uncomfortable truths do you live by? That most people are too soft to lead. That loyalty must be earned, not claimed. That silence often reveals more than words. Drop these truths casually in conversation. Don't preach them, just live them. If they agree, they start reshaping their own values to mirror yours, not out of fear, but admiration. Now they're not just obsessed with you, they're obsessed with being like you. And that's when you stop being a person and become a philosophy. You are now the answer to a question they didn't even know they were asking. Because most people walk through life with quiet, unspoken voids. a craving to feel dangerous, to be seen deeply, to be understood without explanation. You don't fill those voids directly. You create the illusion that you're the only one who could. That's why leaving you feels like a kind of spiritual death. They might try to move on, to find someone new, but every new connection will feel shallow. Because you weren't just a person to them, you were a portal, a doorway to a version of themselves they loved more. And you closed it. Machiavelli never told people what to do. He made them believe it was their idea. You do the same. You plant ideas like seeds. You water them slowly with praise. You always see what others miss. You have this calm strength most people don't. You're different. They internalize those words. They start to believe that becoming more like you is their own choice. You're not controlling them, you're guiding them without resistance. Because the greatest control doesn't feel like control at all. And once they believe that aligning with you is intelligence, that pleasing you is strength, they'll reshape their entire behavior voluntarily. That's when you know you've crossed from influence into dominion. You're no longer just you. You're what you represent. You've become a symbol, a standard. They don't see your flaws anymore. They see what you mean. You've been mythologized by design. Machiavelli knew that true power, the kind that lasts, comes when people no longer see you as human. They see you as something slightly beyond reach. So stay distant. Speak carefully. Let mystery replace explanation. When people can't access you fully, their imagination fills in the blanks with perfection. And that's where immortality begins. You've now mastered what Machiavelli practiced his entire life. The art of becoming larger than your own existence. No longer part of their life, but above it. You influence from the shadows, shaping their emotions, decisions, and values without lifting a finger. You've become legendary presence. And that's what real psychological power looks like. Not loud, not obvious, just felt everywhere, always. Because the truth is this: the moment you stop chasing people, they start chasing you. The moment you stop explaining yourself, they start explaining you to others. And when your silence speaks louder than their need for answers, you've won. That's how you make anyone obsessed with you, not through attraction, not through manipulation, but through design. You become mystery. You become myth. You become the mirror that reflects everything they secretly wish they could be. Now that you've turned yourself into an idea, something larger than emotion, larger than explanation, the final step is preservation. Because power, once understood, begins to fade. You must stay just beyond reach. Close enough to be felt, too distant to be claimed. Machiavelli knew this truth better than anyone. Once you become the source of someone's obsession, your greatest challenge is not to keep their attention, it's to maintain mystery. You don't hold power by being seen all the time. You hold it by being missed. Every appearance must feel intentional. Every absence must feel heavy. You don't chase attention, you shape it. You guide it like an invisible current. You appear when curiosity peaks, disappear when comfort grows. And every time you fade, your presence multiplies in their imagination. That's how ideas become immortal. When you're gone, they wonder. When you return, they worship. And when you leave again, they ache. That rhythm, presence, and absence is the heartbeat of obsession. So use silence as your greatest instrument. When they reach out, resist the urge to reply immediately. When they ask what's wrong, don't explain. You say, with quiet calm, "Nothing's wrong, I've just been thinking." That single phrase keeps them spinning for hours. Because silence, when used with control, doesn't create distance, it creates depth. It makes people project meaning where there is none. They replay your tone, the pause before your words, the way your eyes shifted. They build stories inside their head, searching for hidden signals that don't exist, and every time they do, you take up more space inside them. That's what Machiavelli meant when he wrote about occupying minds. You're no longer fighting for attention. You already own the mental territory. From here, you expand through absence. Not dramatic vanishing, but slow fading. Shorter replies, longer pauses, less warmth in your tone. A colder kind of presence that demands their imagination to do the heavy lifting. Never explain your silence. Never justify your distance. Let them invent their own reasons, because whatever story they build will always be more powerful than any truth you could offer. Their mind becomes your echo chamber. They'll lie awake wondering, did I lose them? Was I not enough? Did something change? And that spiral of self-analysis binds them to you tighter than any affection ever could. But even as you fade, leave traces behind, little reminders that trigger your ghost. A playlist, a phrase only you used, a small ritual, a specific place. These fragments act like emotional fingerprints. They awaken memory without your presence. Now, even when you're not there, they see you everywhere. They hear your words in other people's sentences. They feel your tone in random silences. You've moved from person to presence, from memory to mythology. And that's when you become truly untouchable. Because obsession isn't built through contact, it's built through friction, so you maintain tension. Watch their story, but don't reply. Like a post, but never send a message. Drop a vague text. I was just thinking. Then vanish again. These small breadcrumbs reignite the hope that they're still on your mind. That hope will feed the obsession for weeks. They'll start interpreting every move as a sign. You post something, they think it's about them. You go silent, they assume it's punishment. You reappear, they feel forgiven. Their brain becomes the battleground. And you never even have to show up. Because by this point, you're not a person they desire, you're a drug. They crave the rush of your attention, the comfort of your approval, the sting of your distance. You've become the balance between pleasure and panic. And the human brain is wired to worship what it fears losing. After a period of absence, reappear, but not the same. Return colder, sharper, more self-controlled. Let your eyes carry weight, your words carry pause. Speak slower, softer, as if you've transcended the old version of yourself. They'll notice the difference immediately. You used to be warm, now you're composed. You used to share, now you observe. They'll feel small around you, not because you've diminished them, but because you've outgrown them. And now they're chasing a ghost, the person you once were. That's the trick most people never understand. People don't chase you. They chase the emotional high they once felt in your presence. You gave them meaning, and then you took it away. Now they'll spend weeks, months, even years, trying to get that feeling back. But you never let them. You give them fragments, glimpses of warmth, flashes of intimacy, but never the whole thing. That's how longing becomes identity. They don't just want you back. They want to feel like themselves again, the version of themselves they became when you were near. That's the purest form of control. Machiavelli didn't manipulate people by force. He did it through contrast. He made people feel powerful in his presence, weak in his absence. He gave them pride, then silence, hope, then confusion. He didn't demand loyalty. He made loyalty feel like a form of survival. And when someone fears your absence more than they enjoy your presence, you own their mind completely. This is the moment where you shift from influence to dominion. Because now they'll defend you to others. They'll reinterpret your silence as depth. They'll find excuses for your distance. They'll begin shaping their behavior to please you, even when you're not there. You've become their internal compass, the silent standard they measure themselves against. That's what true control looks like. You don't command it. You become it. Now you maintain the myth. Let people speak about you. Let them wonder. Let them disagree. You never defend your image. You expand it by letting others define it for you. Some will call you cold. Others will call you mysterious. A few will call you unforgettable. All of them will be right, and that's exactly what you want. Because when no single version of you exists, people chase all of them at once. That's how obsession sustains itself, through contradiction. You are warmth and distance, empathy and control, human and myth. Every person sees a different reflection, but all reflections point back to you. And when someone tries to replace you, they can't, because you never truly existed in one form. You existed as possibility. That's why no one forgets you. You're not a closed story, you're an unfinished sentence. And unfinished stories replay forever. So never explain yourself. Never give closure. Never give them the map to your maze. Let them wander. Let them question. Let them ache. Because once they fully understand you, the spell breaks. But as long as they're still guessing, still wondering, still searching, you live on inside them. That's how you turn obsession into immortality. Because real power isn't about owning someone's body. It's about owning their attention, their memory, their imagination. And when you do, you don't just influence their life, you haunt it. So remember this final rule. Be present enough to spark emotion, absent enough to feed imagination, and mysterious enough to never be replaced. When you master that balance, you don't need to control anyone. They'll control themselves in your name, and that's the Machiavellian secret. You don't demand loyalty, you design it. You don't chase love, you provoke it. You don't fight for attention, you make silence do the fighting for you. Because the moment they start hearing your voice in their head when you're gone, the moment your name feels like a thought they can't quiet, the moment they start measuring their worth through your absence, you've already won. That's not manipulation, that's architecture. The architecture of obsession. And it ends where it began, not with what you give, but with what you withhold.